The Eye Tape is the latest EP by Vic Mensa, the voice of the voiceless, as Chicago's biggest underdog continues to fight the injustice in this world that we have faced recently. And before the review starts, I want to give a quick shout out and appreciation to this album cover. On Sunday, when I was writing the review for this on my Instagram, I took a closer look at the cover and I finally realized what it's representing. The painting that these four people are looking at, it shows the killing of George Floyd, the officer putting his knee, and I guess in this image, putting his foot on George Floyd's neck and killing him. I just want to give a quick appreciation because I support the message. I appreciate what Vic Mensa was promoting on this album cover and just what he promotes throughout the whole EP as well. I usually don't like talking about stuff like this on the channel because it seems that now more than ever in today's society, you get shit on and just laughed at and just judge every time you breathe and say one little thing that makes people triggered. People get very easily offended nowadays. I get it. It's a very touchy subject. Nobody knows like the story of the officers and whatnot, and all lives matter and blue lives matter, yada yada yada, all this bullshit. Well, you know what, this right here is a very touchy subject, and you know what, eventually we're all gonna have to talk about it because it's not gonna go away if you just close your eyes and cover your ears like a little kid and pretend like nothing has happened. So yeah, deal with it. Vic Mensa took on the world and rap game in 2017 as everybody was introduced to the autobiography, his long-awaited, anticipated debut studio album that shocked a lot of people. One of my favorite albums that came out in 2017. Vic Mensa came through with a very beautiful project and got me and the whole world very excited for what was up next for his career. And to this day, that is still his only studio album that he currently has in his discography, considering that the other two albums that came out after this project were just little small EPs, including the very hype street hardcore album known as Hooligans, something very, very different than what I was used to hearing when it comes to a Vic Mensa album. And he even went a bit, outside of the box and created the 93 Punks album, a very weird and unique pop punk album that I personally didn't mind, but I know a lot of people didn't like. So I guess that was hit or miss for a lot of people. And although a lot of rap fans are still waiting and anticipating a full-length album from Vic Mensa, myself included, I've been waiting for like 3 years to hear a full-length album from this guy. I guess these small little projects that Vic Mensa has been doing will do for now, because it's obvious that he is not done yet, that he still has a few tricks up his sleeve and seems to have an actual real plan for where he's going with these like little EPs that he's been dropping recently. As the follow-up to last year's V-Tape, a small little EP that came out after all this backlash and just negativity that Vic Mensa was receiving for a lot of stuff that he was doing and saying. It seems that Vic Mensa is still continuing this new small little series that surprisingly has been doing fairly well so far. Like, I haven't really heard that many people say that, they hate these like small little projects that he's been doing. So it seems that a lot of fans are appreciating what he does and what he is giving out so far. Now, admittedly, I will say that I didn't really mind the V-Tape album. I thought it was a pretty decent project. It was very short, maybe about 8 or 7 tracks. It was just a very short EP, but in general, I was pretty happy to get what I got with that EP. But at the same time, I do understand why a lot of people, at least with my peers, why they felt that project seemed a bit underwhelming, especially for a Vic Mensa album. It just seemed like it was missing something. It seemed like it just didn't really like seem as satisfying as the past few albums that he's dropped, you know, including the 93 Punks album. I mean, like, yeah, say whatever you want about it, you know, rappers shouldn't go pop punk. I think a lot of people have felt that way ever since Machine Gun Kelly switched over from rap to pop punk, but at the same time, at least he gave you something and not just half-assed the whole album, you know. He at least put in some creative effort into it. And after hearing the second installment to this new series, I gotta say that the V tape does not hold a candle to the I tape, because I actually prefer this one a lot more than the first one that came out. Like, let me tell y'all, this is probably one of the best projects that Vic Mensa has dropped so far since the autobiography. Vic Mensa delivers a beautiful narrative throughout this whole project, as this small little project tackles the subjects of trauma, anguish, and the overall Black struggle, not only in modern society, but you know how it was back then for a lot of African Americans growing up. Vic Mensa goes harder than ever as he delivers punchline after punchline and delivers a very impressive flow that you would expect to hear on a classic Kanye album, specifically The Life of Pablo. You know, these two projects are very, very similar to each other, you know, two very gospel driven rap albums, but I would argue that Vic Mensa is a lot more chill about it in this one than what Kanye was in The Life of Pablo. Don't get me wrong, that album was pretty excellent, you know, one of the best and maybe one of the last good albums by Kanye, but at the same time, you know, that shit had like a lot of like weird tracks that, you know, it's kind of hard to get into sometimes, even if you are a very big Kanye fan, in my opinion. That's right, the production value on this tape changed dramatically from the V tape, and that's mostly thanks to the production talent of Just Blaze. Just Blaze delivers some classic modern boom bap rap beats, you know, the type of beats that you would hear on a Kendrick Lamar album or on a modern Dr. Dre album, and he does something a little bit different and mixes it with a lot of, you know, gospel and inspired sounds, you know, like it's an album that has like very hardcore beats, obviously, you know, some very catchy beats as well, but it has a very like, you know, soulful like vibe to it, you know. It's the kind of album where you can just, you know, chill to it, at the same time just go hard to it at the same time, you know. It's a very like well balance of both gospel and, you know, classic modern rap beats. I really love how the backup vocals throughout the whole project in every track sounds as if there is a church choir, you know, singing along in the background as Vic Mensa either sings or raps, and, you know, just has all these like different skits and whatnot. You know, I think, you know, just the gospel vibe that I get in this album, and just, you know, that choir in the background of every track just really gives this album the kick it needs to be very enjoyable and very memorable at the same time. And although Vic Mensa's lyricism is really dope and will forever be, you know, some of the most, you know, unique lyricism that we have so far, it's his storytelling that really takes the cake here, in my opinion. Vic Mensa tackles a lot of subjects throughout this whole project. Specifically, he focuses more on how COVID-19 has impacted the Black community during this whole pandemic, and he even, you know, mostly talks about, you know, how a lot of his friends and just brothers in general have gotten, you know, locked up, you know, for no reason whatsoever, you know, for misunderstandings, or if they just weren't given a fair trial, you know. Once again, you know, being one of the few Black rappers to talk about, you know, how, you know, in some cases the color of your skin makes you guilty from the day that you were born. There's also one track on here called Millionaires, where Vic Mensa talks about his very inspirational success story from nothing to all of a sudden, you know, out of nowhere, a millionaire, you know, pretty much once again touching on the subject of, you know, nobody thought that we would be millionaires. You know, I never thought that I'd be a millionaire, and here we are, which I guess at this point for a lot of rap fans, we are very used to at some point hearing about this success story in a lot of rappers' lives. You know, I feel that every rapper, every actor, just, anybody who did become a millionaire didn't really think that this life would happen to them. Sometimes you just get lucky, or you work really hard, and then you get to where you really want to be, and then sometimes you just gotta sit there in awe and just you know just really really start to like take in and appreciate and realize, like, wow, I really am a fucking millionaire out here. There's even a very small 1 minute story told by Vic Mensa's dad on this album. It's on the track entitled Kwaku, I believe. I believe it's his father's African name. I'm not gonna go into too many details of what this story is about, because I actually want some of you to go ahead and hear this story, because it's very inspirational. I think a lot of you would like love to hear, like a very like a unique story than what you are used to hearing about an immigrant coming to the United States. Vic Mensa's dad talks about growing up in Ghana, and then going to the United States and having to raise a bunch of kids in Chicago, when at the time the murder rate was like 1,000 people a year. It was really bad in Chicago at some point. So I think it's a very very like really good, emotional, very informational story that a lot of people would love to hear about. This, not only the Black struggle, but the struggles of growing up back then, and to really really like start to realize that even though shit has been going bad now, with this pandemic, and having to wear a mask everywhere, and COVID killing a bunch of people, you really, things really really could be a lot worse, because at the time, especially in Chicago and a bunch of other places that were very dangerous at the time, like shit was really really bad at some points. And although I did like the guest list on the V-Tape album, so one of my favorite features was with the very underrated St. John, I would say that the guest list on this project definitely takes the win here. Vic Mensa once again collaborates with some of the most unique and very diverse artists that we have right now in the music industry. One of my favorites, my favorite track on the album, the song entitled Freedom, with Top Dog Entertainment's Zakari. I will say that although I would have enjoyed it more if Zakari it had a much more a bigger verse, instead of one like little like line that he like says, or like the few little bars that he does do. I did really enjoy this album due to the fact that it is the only track where Vic Mensa has this very like crazy flow, and crazy like metaphor, and like really really crazy a wordplay in general. It is the most lyrical track on here, in my opinion, and it just really really kept me on my toes to see, okay, what else is he gonna say next? How is he gonna word it? He just really really like grabs for your attention in this particular song. Another great track on here is the song entitled Musa, which includes a feature with Jermai, Aaron Allen Kane, and Wyatt Waddle. Wyatt and Aaron have appeared on the V-Tape album, and Jermai, I think this is the first feature that he does with Vic Mensa. Once again, just like the track with Zakari, each of these three features don't really have a big role in this particular song. You kind of forget that they are in it, because it seems that Vic Mensa is the main attraction, and the one stealing the spotlight from the features just in this whole project. But the main reason why I like this track is because once again, it tells a really really great story and narrative. As if y'all paid attention to the album cover of this project, Vic Mensa is wearing a black hoodie in the back it says King Musa, and the majority of this project kind of talks about this kid that went to jail. His name is Musa. And this song in particular just really really like goes into depth. Vic Mensa is really really good at telling other people's stories. Like that one song in the autobiography called Heaven on Earth, where he talks about the murder of one of his best friends. Like doing both the point of view of the shooter, and the friend dying. Vic Mensa's reaction to what it's like up there in heaven. you know, it just seems that he's really good at providing, like, you know, like really like different point of views, you know, and all these like different skits and whatnot throughout the song as well. So I'm not gonna get into too many details of what the song is about, but you know, it is a really dope and emotional and like on the edge of your seat, a storyteller, as Vic Mensa tells the unfortunate story of this kid named Musa who went to jail for a misunderstanding, you know, for something that was not his fault, out of control, out of his control, and he just happened to be the main suspect, and you know, just got sentenced to jail for quite a while now. The last track I want to talk about on this album before I get out of here is the last song on this album, entitled "A Shelter," with a surprising feature with Wyclef Jean and Chance the Rapper. This is, in my opinion, the only track on here with the features where it seems that, you know, everybody that is featured on the album actually has an important role in the album, in the song, and you know, you can obviously tell that Vic Mensa wanted to share the spotlight this time. It's a very emotional and sort of like a peace anthem um, kind of song. You know, I would think of it of like, you know, Vic Mensa's, you know, like own version of Changes. You know, Wyclef Jean is on the chorus, and both Chance and Vic Mensa have, you know, two verses on here. And I think it's just a very like beautiful song. You know, Wyclef Jean still has a very like amazing voice. You know, he just really sounds very old school. You know, it sounds like the early 2000s shit that he did back in the day. And the reason why I really love this song is because of Chance the Rapper himself. You know, it seems that for the past 2 years, Chance has really been disappointed me. You know, like, you know, he obviously has a lot of things going on in his life now. You know, he has a wife and kids. Obviously, you know, he's not going to be the same, you know, crazy Chance that he was back in the day. But what I do appreciate about this song is Chance kind of goes back to his roots, and like raps in that very like familiar flow that we all fell in love with when he first came out with his first project, with his first mixtape at least. And so I just really appreciate, you know, Chance and Vic reuniting on this project to, you know, give the world a very like emotional, like, you know, like standing up to injustice sort of anthem. You know, it's just one of those songs that really like it makes you think about all the bullshit going on right now, and just, you know, like when is enough enough? You feel me? Like it's just a very woke like kind of song in general. So my prediction for Vic Mensa right now is that a year from now, or maybe a few months from now, depending on what he decides to do, Vic Mensa is going to drop the C tape that is going to contain either 7 or 8 more tracks, you know, another small little EP, and at some point, either after a few months that the C tape has dropped, or again a year later after the C tape has dropped, he is going to eventually combine the C tape, the V tape, and the I tape into one whole big project, and that will pretty much be his official second studio album, which I personally am not gonna mind, but I know a lot of people will be really upset. You know, he is most likely gonna combine all 3 of these short little projects into one big project, and, you know, maybe include 1 or 2 of bonus tracks that no one has ever heard before. So regardless of how you think about that, it's most likely gonna happen, considering that a lot of artists have been doing this. You know, for example, I know that Tech Nine and a lot of the strange music artists have been releasing their studio albums into small little volumes, as they call it. You know, Nikki from the 88 Rising crew did that with her recent Moonchild album that just came out. You know, she released that album into 3 little EPs before eventually coming out with the full project. So, you know, I know that a lot of you get really annoyed with that, but it seems that's how artists have been doing things lately. So yeah, definitely get ready for that, because I'm pretty sure that's gonna happen. But for now, let's all appreciate what Vic Mensa has in store for us now, and will continue to do with this small little series. You know, maybe he'll go all the way to A. You know his last name. Maybe there'll be a fucking M tape too. You know, who knows? But, you know, besides that, I think this is a pretty decent project. You know, every track on here is fairly enjoyable. You know, I think it is 100 times more better than the V tape. And I guess let's see if the C tape will be better or if it'll be kind of a letdown. Who knows? Like anything can happen. But until then, I really, really do like this one so far. I think this installment is going to be my favorite out of the whole series that Vic is doing. And for that, I'm going to give this project an 8 out of 10. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed my review. What did y'all think about this album? Have you heard it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What are your favorite tracks? What are your least favorite tracks? Please let me know in the comment section down below. I would love to hear your opinions about it. And with that being said, don't forget to like, subscribe, click the button down below, all that good stuff. And don't forget to stay happy.
It's like I'm living a dream, that's how to reach. I've been cooking like Walter and Jesse Pink. It's exhausting trying to be a prodigy. Past DV.